Alright, so welcome back to Dell of Merchants Collection. So for this video, we're going to talk about the Vigorous Emperor Penguins. Okay, Vigorous Emperor Penguins. So this is the merchant we're going to talk about first. So let's get started. So the first one is obviously known as the Resourceful Ally. Okay, this is a technique. And it's got the plus technique action on it, icon on it, obviously. So for this one, you're going to search your discard pile for a card and place it on the bottom of your deck. Well, that's kind of interesting. There could be times when your deck is almost out of cards, for instance. Maybe you have one or two cards left in your deck, and your discard pile is full of cards. This could be beneficial. You could end up using this at that opportune moment and getting to search your discard pile for a powerful card in your discard pile and getting to play it much sooner than expected. So obviously that could come in handy. But it's not the superest awesome ability, because if you have a deck full of cards, then it's still going to be a while before you're going to get to obviously play that card, obviously. Still, that's a pretty cool one nonetheless. And I've seen worse. Okay? Let's move on. So the next one is Ice Trade. And this is a technique. Now you'll notice it doesn't have the plus icon on it, meaning if you do this technique action, your turn is over. Okay, that means no more actions this turn. That means you can't buy cards from market. That means you can't build a stack in your stall. Okay? But still, it's a cool technique ability. With this, you're going to spend a certain amount of obviously cards, like so maybe one junk card, for instance, or more, to draw one card from the market deck and place it into your hand. So that's a really cool ability, for sure, but obviously it's going to end your action phase if you decide to use this technique. Still, it'll come in handy, for sure. Probably, unless you end up getting another ice trade or something like that, because you don't know what's going to be in the market deck either. So that's, still, there's a good chance you'll get something you don't have or something that's really good that you really like playing with. So it's still a good one nonetheless. Okay, so the next one here is traveling equipment, and you will see that it has the plus icon on it, so you can use other techniques or actions after you play with traveling equipment. Now with this technique, you'll spend one to draw two cards from your deck, okay? And then you'll place them into your hand. Then throw away a card from your hand and discard another. So you're spending one. If you're going to spend one, I would recommend not spending a junk card unless your hand is full of junk cards. Because if you draw two really good cards, you're going to have to throw away a card, which means if you don't have any junk cards to throw away, you're going to have to throw away you're going to have to throw away an animal merchant card, obviously. And maybe it's really good. So you don't want to do that, obviously. And then you're going to have to discard another card to boot. So basically you're spending one to draw two cards to basically let you throw away one and discard another. So there have been times where I was like, I am not using this ability because I only have one junk card in my hand and the rest of the cards have high numbers like 4s and 5s. So that's not going to help me at all. So this isn't the best card in the world, but there are times when it could be helpful. There have been a couple of times where I was able to use this and I was able to throw away a junk card, obviously, and discard another junk card to boot. So, it just depends, And the two cards that I drew were actually really good, so it worked out for me getting to do this ability, traveling equipment. But it's not always going to be useful. Okay, the next one here is not as useful. It's actually worse than the other one. And you'll notice it's a passive ability. When you build a stack with this card, you may spend a certain amount to change this card's value by that divided by 2, rounding up for this turn. So if you discard, if you spend 7, and then you divide that by 2, it's going to be, you're going to basically turn this into a 4. So you probably don't want to do that, right? You can spend more than that, though. You can spend 8, or you can spend 9, or 10, or whatever. So you can spend a lot and make this number higher than it already is, Or, most likely what's going to happen is you're going to spend less. Maybe you're going to spend, I don't know, 6 divided by 2. Then you'd be able to turn this number into a 3 instead of a 4. And so for the rest of the turn, the stove would be considered a 3 instead of a 4. Maybe you could use that to buy a card from market. But most likely what you'd want to do is use it to build a stack in your stall. Okay? But still, it's not super useful, and I just found that this was a good card to put as my 4th stack in my stall because it just isn't that useful. Okay, it's going to be really hard to pull this off to make it worth your while for sure. So, definitely probably the worst card in this set. Okay, let's move on. Now, we got through one of the worst cards in this set. The last 2 weren't that great, but this one is phenomenal. Okay, this one is fishing. Now, you'll notice it has a plus icon on it. With this one, you're going to spend 1 to search your discard pile for up to 3 cards, and then you place them on top of your deck in any order. I love this one. Fishing is awesome. I like this one a lot. It's really cool. So you just spend 1, like a junk card, okay? You put it into your discard. You spend 1, okay, which is like maybe probably a junk card. Then you're going to get to search your discard pile for up to 3 cards. So if you don't have exactly 3, you can just choose 2 really good cards, for instance, or 1 really good card, and then place it on top of your deck in any order. That's really cool. That means you'll have some really good cards for your next turn, instead of having to wait around to get it for sure. So I really like fishing a lot. Fishing is definitely one of the best ones here. Okay, here's the last one. Practical values. With this one, you'll notice it's got the plus icon on it as well. And this one is really useful too, as a technique. Okay, so each card valued 1 you use is valued 5. Each 2 is 4, and vice versa for this turn. So what that means is, if you play this card, for the rest of your turn, all your cards that have a value of 1 are now a 5, which means your junk cards, they're a value of 5. That's powerful, right? You can use your junk cards to purchase a really, expensive card from market. Or, what's even better, is you can turn those little merchants that only have a value of 1, like, I don't know, that penguin from earlier, for instance, and make it have a value of 5 instead, which means you can use that to build the 5th stack in your stall, as an example. Or better, maybe the 6th stack to help you out with that, or the 7th, or whatnot. But it also works with 2s and 4s, okay? So vice versa, 2s and 4s. Your 4s become 2s, and your 2s become 4s for the rest of your turn. That's really powerful. I like this one a lot. So obviously, obviously that one is awesome. Fishing is awesome. So those are 2 really good ones. Traveling equipment is okay. Ice trade is okay. But obviously, the stove is the worst one in the set, and the 5s are the best ones in the set, for sure. Obviously, the penguins are pretty good, too. They're probably better than some of the other ones. Like, I think I'd have to say this ability is probably better than the ice trade, especially towards the end of the game, for sure. So basically, that's how the Vigorous Emperor Penguins are going to work. If you guys liked this video, don't forget to leave a like, and I'll see you guys in the next video.